All right, so on the phone today we have Ida Forsberg, who is a girl that I helped to college last fall. Ida was actually one of the first clients of Athleticademix. So first and foremost, welcome to the pod, Ida.
Thank you.
And we're glad to have you, and we have a three-way call here with me, Ida, and David on the other line. So welcome into the call here, David, as well.
Hi, everybody.
So Ida, we are gonna speak a bit about you before you went to the US, about the whole process, but we're also gonna speak about your experiences while being in the US. You've completed 1.5 semester now with this whole virus going on, but you were supposed to be in the States still, but now you're home for a bit longer summer break. But why don't you start with introducing yourself? What school do you play for? What position do you play? Because you are a soccer player. What year of school are you in?
Yeah, for sure. I play for Middle Tennessee State University, and I'm a goalkeeper there. And like you said, I've completed 1.5 semesters. I'm a freshman going on being a junior. So
sophomore, right? You skipping 1 year?
Sophomore. Never mind. I just don't know my terms.
That's fine. It actually took me some time to realize how to pronounce sophomore. I said sophomore a really long time. So I understand why you skipped it.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it. That's why.
What are your major in? Have you decided for major?
Yeah, so I'm majoring in global studies and human geographies, and I'm thinking about minoring in psychology and English.
Okay, so nice. What's the reason you picked that as a major?
I've always been really interested with like globalization and urbanization, like how the world works and why it works like that. Mm-hmm. So I just really find it interesting with geography and like stuff like that. So I went with my gut, but we'll see if I stick with it. But for now, I'm happy with my decision. So
cool. Do you have a dream job?
Oh, I have so many things I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to be a soccer coach. Like that's one of my dream things. But other than that, I love to work with like helping Sweden becoming the best version of itself when it comes to like being able to live on the countryside and being able to like do what you want to do. So that's something I want to do.
Nice. And for those of you who don't know, and David, who has never been more north than Stockholm, Ida lives with polar bears up in the north. So she is definitely living on the countryside. What was I thinking? You forgot to say that working for Athleticademix. That was the answer I was looking for when you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Asked for the dream job.
So my dream job is actually working for Athleticademix.
Yeah, all right, good.
Yeah.
We'll fix that. So where in Sweden are you from, and what clubs have you played for? I know you moved while going to high school. Would you mind telling us a bit about that?
Of course. So I'm from a really small town, as you mentioned. It's called Sollefteå. I think the only reason you would know about my town is like if you're into skiing and stuff. But it's a really small town up north, so I've really been on the countryside until I was like 16 and moved to Sundsvall. So when I lived at home, I played for a club called Remsle UF Division 2, and then I changed to Sundsvalls DFF, which is in Elitettan, which is the second highest league in Sweden.
Yeah, and Sollefteå has. I'm actually with being a Swede, I'm really bad at knowing about skiers and such. But we have plenty of skiers from Sollefteå, don't we?
Yeah, a lot. We have like especially the young ones right now, Frida Karlsson and Ebba Andersson, and a few of like what do you call it when they shoot? Sebastian Samuelsson.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you know, David, what the name of that is when they ski and shoot?
I forget now.
It is what it is. You can, if you know skiing, the ones who have guns on their back, that's the thing you talk about.
Yeah.
All right. Nice. And just so everyone is aware that in Sweden it's not very common to
Biathlon.
was it called?
Sorry, it came to me. Biathlon.
All right, nice. No, but it's not a normal thing to move away from home as far as you did when you went to high school. What was the reason for it? Was it solely because you came into a soccer high school, or did you feel like it was time for it? What was your thinking process there?
So like I've always been a person that likes a challenge, and playing in my old club, like that was like I was pretty comfortable there. I knew I was gonna play, I knew I was gonna start. And when I got into the soccer high school and the Sundsvall wanted me on their team, I was like, okay, this is a good next step for me in order to like become a better goalkeeper. So that's mainly why I moved to like become the best version of myself on and off the field.
Yeah. You kind of did the whole college thing a few years ahead, but in high school. All right, perfect. So this whole interview is gonna not solely, but mostly focus on your college process and your college experience this far. So we're moving on to the college process before leaving.
So Ida, how did the idea of college and getting in touch with Athleticademix, how did that come about for you?
So I had a couple of American teammates on my team in Sundsvall, and they were all very like trying to get me to go to college basically because they thought I would like it and stuff, and they enjoyed it so much. And when Robin reached out to me through, I think it was Instagram, I was like, oh, this sounds cool. And I got immediately interested, and we got on the call and I talked to him, and I had a really good gut feeling about like working with him. Like I knew he was in the beginning of his process, like starting his company, but I went with my gut and I chose to go with Athletic, and I'm really happy that I did. So that's how it all got started, I guess.
And for you, obviously you'd had some teammates, which is always a very big positive and a help because you can ask for many different opinions. And then you spoke with Robin. I'm guessing you kind of had a meeting or a phone call with him after you did some info. So you got to know a little bit about what's involved and the process ahead and the opportunities that were available. But for you, what were the sort of biggest positives or the biggest attractions to studying and competing in America?
I think for me, it was like, first and foremost, like the adventure of it all, like being able to stay in a couple of years to like, oh, I actually lived in the States and played soccer in the States was like a big thing for me. And also like getting the opportunity to basically be a pro without being a pro. Like that's my main thing. Cause like you get opportunities there that you could never get here.
Sure.
And while like getting an education without having to work on the side.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. But with that in mind, were there any negatives, or what was there anything that first of all you had doubts about that you needed to think over?
Yeah, of course. Like no decision is just like, oh yeah, this sounds perfect. Because like obviously I have to leave my family behind, and you never know like where am I actually going. Like I played league in a good team, and I got behind. It's like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to something better or something worse. And you always want to like progress and like going somewhere better where you can like become a better keeper and a better player in general. So that was something I was like concerned about, like knowing that I was going somewhere where I was gonna like become better and like enjoy.
Okay. And then, so if you were to, I guess, when you were making your decision or going through the thought process of what you wanted to do, how did you weigh up those positives and negatives and overcome the negatives, if you get what I'm saying? So what was the sort of factor that helped you overcome the negatives?
Yeah, so like what I said in the beginning, the adventure of it all. Like I always gonna have my family's always gonna be there in Sweden. I always have the opportunity to go back and play with Sundsvall, like do that again. So like this place will be the same and it will stay the same. And if I want to change, maybe my environment's got to change too. So that's basically what I was thinking, that okay, I can go back and do this in a year if I really hated it in the US. So that was my decision.
Yeah, nice. And then you became a part of the family, as we say here in Athleticademix, and we started the whole process. I could probably check this, but do you recall what month we got started? I think it was October, maybe?
Yeah, something like that. It was
I think so as
November.
well. You were in your first semester of your last year in high school.
Yeah.
So it was fall/winter, basically. And through this whole college process, there's a lot of things that you need to do. You need to talk to a lot of coaches. You need to do really fun paperwork and all of that. What was the most fun part about the process? What did you really enjoy?
This is gonna sound really like bad, but like getting the attention, I think.
Yeah.
It sounds like I'm the biggest snob of them all, but like getting a bunch of colleges that like, oh, we want you on our team was like a really cool experience, because here's like everyone, every team in Sweden, like what they play and stuff, but just getting like that amount of emails on your account saying like, we really want you, we think you're great, and like talking to coaches and stuff, that's something I really enjoyed. I thought that was a lot of fun. And also like looking into colleges in general and being like, oh, I could go to Florida, oh, I can go to California, I can go to Tennessee. I like seeing my options was really cool.
Was it? Did you notice a pattern in coaches in terms of them speaking about the same stuff, or were they all different type of calls?
I think like obviously the coaches are trying to like sell themselves to me.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of like, oh, we're gonna give you this, and our houses are like that, and you're gonna play all the time, and like promising you a lot, I think. Which made it like, obviously you're like, oh, excited about it, but it also makes it hard because everyone's promising kind of like the same things.
Yeah. So what made you choose Middle Tennessee then, after speaking to all of the coaches for a few weeks and months? What do you remember what it was that made you pick them?
Yeah, it was, first of all, I knew I wanted to play in a Division I team. And I also knew that I wanted like a fair opportunity to actually play. So I feel like Middle Tennessee for me was like a good middle ground almost, because I knew it wasn't going to be like me walking in and taking the starting position right away, because there were like already good players and keepers there. But it's also like possible for me to actually be on the field. And also I got a really good feeling about the coaches after talking to them. And it was a good location, not too hot, because I'm not into like almost dying every day. So it was like a good middle for everything, and it was pretty close to Nashville, but not in an actual like huge town, which I'm not used to. Yeah. And also like my dad, he loves hockey and Predators and country, so he was like, "Oh, cool! You should really go there so I can come watch hockey."
And I know your parents are gonna listen to this. Probably they are the biggest followers of Athleticademix. I love them. I think they're so funny. I still remember to this date the day where we're gonna have the deciding call or whatever. So we had a freeway call like we have just today, where you were in Sundsvall, your parents were in Sollefteå. And they were chatting on, and you were like, "Oh, mom and dad, please shut up. It's me and Robin talking now." It was you guys have a really close and good relationship. I really like it. So I understand that they were a part of your decision, and I think that's good. I think in some way, a parent can guide you as long as you can make your own choice. But I think it's important that the parents involve themselves and give their insights and all. Were they included in, or probably not, I realize now when asking you, but they were not included on any of the calls with the schools, right?
Actually, like after talking, when I was like leaning more towards Middle Tennessee, my mom and dad was on a call with Aston. Okay. Like he wanted to talk to them because he's really like big on that, like getting to know the families and like getting that they get to know him, like where they're sending their daughter. But like they have been a huge support throughout this process, and they like, obviously your parents want what's best for you, so like they're probably going to be the most like the best people to ask, because other people often have like an agenda behind, but they just want what's best for you. That's really good.
That's good. That's good. My mom was not included in mine whatsoever, but she is not the best in English, so that's probably the
Oh
reason
yeah.
why. But looking back at the process before heading to Middle Tennessee, you know, everything you've done from the start of October to August, July when you left. What was the most boring stuff or the most challenging part about the whole process?
The most boring stuff is definitely all the paperwork.
Yeah.
There's so much paperwork that I didn't even know existed. Like it's so much.
Yeah.
And like the hardest part was like probably like actually making a decision, because like I couldn't go visit every single school like all my friends in my team now did. Like I couldn't go on official visits and unofficial visits because like I can't fly for that long just to like look at a school.
Yeah.
Like doing that process, like deciding without even like met the people or seen the school was pretty hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And that makes sense. And you'll notice now when you go back in the fall that you basically have no paperwork to do now. So it's just all the stuff you need to do before going, and then usually the first couple of weeks during spring season and such, there's usually a few stuff that still needs to be completed in school, and you get a bit tired of it and feel like, oh, this will never stop. But as long as when you finish your freshman year, there's not much left to do. You're gonna apply to the government for the support, probably economical support, but that's probably the only thing. All right, awesome. So we're moving on to the next subject of the podcast, which is your year at MTSU.
Okay, so you've done near enough 1.5 years now at MTSU, Ida. So taking yourself back to kind of day one, what was it like for you when you arrived in the US or in Tennessee, and how did that play out for you in the sort of the first week of preseason and adapting to your new environment?
yeah, so when I landed, I was so scared, first of all, because I was like, what am I doing? I'm the stupidest person alive. Like, this is dumb. And I landed and I was supposed to get picked up by two teammates. And I didn't know where to go. I didn't know where they were going to pick me up because I've obviously never been to the Nashville airport before. And getting through security was a whole deal by itself. I was terrified, starting to think about everything I've done in my entire life up till that point that would get me like sent away. But I got out and I walked out of the airport, and the first thing, like, it was like walking into the wall of heat, and I was like, nope, turning around, not doing this. And so that was like my first day, and they picked me up and they drove me back and everything was fine. And then a couple of days later, obviously, like, preseason started, with a lot of fitness tests and like media days and stuff, and I'm the most awkward person on earth. So like doing all those like videos and pictures when you have to like be serious and like look cute, like I couldn't do that. That was awful.
You're really selling this experience, Ida, at the moment.
Yeah.
I know, right? No, I'm trying to say it was a lot of fun, but like me as a person, like it's always going to be easier next year, like doing all that stuff, like not knowing anyone. And I'm like, hey, like, no, I was not good at that. But like also like I had so much fun. Like it was such an experience, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like it was awesome, but I was terrified. So
that's great. And when you said your teammates picked you up and everything from the airport, so were you taken to dorms then and moved in with another teammate, or what was the like living situation like on sort of from day one really?
Yeah, so when I got there, they were actually like on a short break, like a few days before spring season. What am I saying? I meant preseason. And so I got there to my dorm, and none of my like roommates were there. So I had like 2 or 3 days by myself in my dorm, which I thought was good because I was so jet lagged anyways. Yeah. So I like got a little bit of a moment to breathe before I had to meet all the people. But we live with 3 different people. So like I share a bathroom with another girl, and then we have 2 other roommates too. So you have your own room, but you share a bathroom, and you share like a living room and a kitchen. So that's how we do it at MT.
Cool.
Okay. All right, nice. And was it anything about you arriving that speaking of campus, in terms of how you were living, you obviously just looked at pictures and videos before. Was it anything that struck you as a surprise in terms of the campus or the dorms? Or was it like you were imagining it to be?
I mean, obviously, when you see pictures, you're like, "Oh, this looks nice," but it's not going to look like this when I get there.
Yeah.
But it was like I got there, and I was like, "Oh, this is really pretty. Like the campus is really beautiful, and I really like the aesthetic and everything." And the dorms are like actually fine. I was like envisioning something terrible, like a small room looking like a prison cell. But that's not how it was at all. So it was like I was happily surprised when I got there.
That was my mom's first comment when I showed her my dorm room my first year. She said, "Oh, it looks like prison." I was like, "Yeah." But my dorm was not pretty. But yeah, glad to hear that. And how many are enrolled in MTSU? How many students?
Like 25,000, I think.
Oh, I thought it was 12,000. It was that was more than I expected.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's really nice. It's a fun thing when it's a lot of students. Well, going into the soccer part of it, or the football part, as we say in the UK, how did your season go for you individually and for the team? What are your experience of the soccer in terms of the first season that you've experienced?
Yeah, so like with the team, I think we did pretty decent. We were expecting more, but like we got eliminated in the first round of the championship. And we know like we have the talent and the ability to go further. We should have been in the semifinals and finals. But I mean, mistakes happen, and we learned a lot from it going out of that. A really challenging game where we were really upset about losing. But we did pretty good. I think we developed as a team a lot during that season.
How would you? Sorry for interrupting you, but you played obviously for Sundsvall's DFF, which is a lower ranked team in the second highest league possible in Sweden. Taking that team, if they would play against Middle Tennessee, how would you think that game would pan out?
I think Middle Tennessee will win.
Okay.
Not more because it's a more aggressive offensive game than I see in Europe a lot. Like I think we're better at defending in Europe than in the States.
Yeah.
But it's way more aggressive, and I feel like we would get some goals in behind Sundsvall's net. So I feel like it would be a tough game. Like it would be a close one, but I think we would win that one.
Do you have any memories throughout the season where you played a team or a school where you just felt like, oof, these guys are good, or these girls are good? Is it a team that has stood out for you during the first season?
Yeah, there's two teams that I was really like, whoa. Florida Atlantic and North Texas.
Yeah.
I feel like Florida Atlantic was more of a European team. They were like really good at keeping the ball and not really just like kicking it long.
Yeah.
And they would definitely be like in our highest league here in Sweden.
Yeah.
And North Texas was just like huge and really strong, and we looked tiny next to them. They were really a powerful team. So it was cool playing against them.
Okay, nice. FAU, Florida Atlantic, also has a bunch of Scandinavian kids actually. It's definitely a good team. So how did it go for you in terms of you individually this first season?
Yeah, I'm never really happy. Like I always want more, but of course I wanted like more playing time than I got.
Yeah.
But I can't also like. I did my best. Like I put everything I had out there every single practice and tried to challenge my fellow keepers and my teammates every single day. And I can't really do more than that if I don't get like the opportunity to be on the field as much. And that's not my decision. So I think like I'm happy with the effort I put down and how much I worked to be there.
Yeah.
And then like now I know what to expect for next year, and I think next season is going to be different for me. So I'm excited about that.
Nice. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for it.
So
me too.
So for you as well, obviously we've spoken a little bit more about soccer specifically there as well. But how did you balance the soccer with the studies, or combine soccer and studies with time management and things like that? How did you find that this first year or so that you've been there?
Yeah, so like we're pretty spoiled, honestly. Like we get a lot of help. As a student athlete, they want you to excel in the classroom as well. Like student comes before athletes, so we get so much help with like study halls and tutors and like everything you possibly could need to like get a high grade is there. And for us, we have all of our workouts in the morning. So you basically like not get that over with, but like you've done your workouts and then you focus on school. So you have like a whole day of studies, and then we have, as freshmen, we have this thing called study hall that we do every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, where you go and you have this specific person that helps you, like he's in charge of your studies and make sure that you've done everything you need to do. And like honestly, I think it's just about being organized and being like, you need to be aware that it's gonna take a lot of work and it's gonna take a lot of organizing. And if you're willing to do that, you're not gonna have a problem with school.
Definitely, yeah. And well, what would you say, if you can put a kind of percentage number on it, the balance is like from the sports responsibilities and then your studies, both with classes and study hall and homework and things like that? What's the kind of percentage balance?
Honestly, we spend a lot more time studying than we do playing soccer. Like that's just how it is, because the student part of it is so huge that like you're not going to be able to be an athlete if you can't handle your studies.
Yeah.
So I would be like 70-30 if you put like time, but effort is of course like what you make of it. But like if you put time on it, like 70-30, that's what I would say.
Yeah.
Nice. And what is your? I'm throwing you out here to the wolves, Ida. But what are your GPA this far for after the first semester?
Like 3.97.
Oh, you don't have A's in everything?
No, math, Robin. I don't do math. I had to.
That's a great start then.
To explain what a GPA is, just for any listener that doesn't know what a GPA is, it's a grade point average. So it measures your grades throughout high school, but also once you're at college in the States as well. So it's out of 4. And if you were on straight A's, you would be a 4.0 GPA. So if Ida is 3.97, it's not far off. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So that's all A's and A minus, I guess then.
Yeah, something like that, or B plus, I think.
Okay, nice. And especially for non-English speaking students, I think to see a pattern of having a tough first year in terms of GPA, and that is me included there as well. But then when you understand the American school system, you usually tend to shape up in terms of your grades. I'm glad you're doing it already. That's great. Just going back to a bit of speaking about the teammates picking up from the airport and such, both me and David in Athleticademix, we tend to, there's a lot of cool stuff in terms of college when we look at facilities, gyms and all that, but we kind of feel like everyone already know that because that's what a lot of people are seeing through videos and through pictures, but we tend to talk a bit about the family-oriented atmosphere that's in college and the friendship that you create. How would you say your experience in terms of family friendship are at Middle Tennessee? Do you feel like you are a family, or are they friendly, or what's your experience there?
We're for sure a family. Like I've never been this close with a group of girls in my entire life. It's like coming in as an international student is obviously gonna be hard and different because you have no idea what you're coming into at all. But I had the great luck to come into like an amazing group of girls and trainers and everything like that. So the school is very united, and I feel like our social media team is doing a great job of like portraying our school as a family, which I think is very important. Because if you see everywhere like, oh, MTSU, we're a family, then you're just gonna get that like into your head. And as weird as it sounds, like this whole virus situation has really brought my team closer because it's really showing us like what we're missing out on and like how lucky we are to be together, like on the field and stuff. So we really are a family there.
That's nice. And it's actually a very common thing in terms of international students that when you get to the end of the semester, you kind of feel like, oh, I can't wait to get back to mom and eat her meatballs, basically. But then when you've been home for a few days, you just feel like, oh, I can't wait to get back to my team. So your feelings are quite normal. But I'm glad to hear that. And your living situation. You said you live with 3 other girls. I think you said girls, right?
Yeah.
And are they all soccer players, or are they what type of people are they?
So I live with 2 soccer players and 1 volleyball player.
Okay.
And I feel like that's been really good because like obviously you're around soccer people all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and even if you love them, like there's points and times where like, I just need to be away from you right now. Like they're my best friends, but I also need some distance.
Yeah.
And it's been really good to like have sort of like another person being there that you don't see all the time. So I've really been loving like living with Lauren, that's her name too. Having her in our group has been awesome. That's what I like too, because you get so many different friends from all over in different sports. Like I have friends from Australia, from Germany, from England, from like all over the world in different sports, and it's really cool to like have those connections, I think.
And you get the opportunity then obviously to go and support them in their college games, whichever sport that is, and they'll come to your games and cheer you on, that kind of thing too, which is really nice, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. The tennis guys are always crazy at our games, so that's amazing.
That's nice. And are all your roommates Americans, or are they international as well?
They're all Americans, so they have to drive me around everywhere, so that's perfect.
Well, that's perfect for your language as well, because you have really, really good English just after this short amount of time. I feel embarrassed here sitting here speaking English as well. But I in my second, third, and fourth year in college, our starting 11 in my school had 9 of 11 Swedes. So my English actually got a bit ruined by having too many Swedes around me, because we were living solely Swedes in an apartment, so it was not much English speaking there. So I actually think it's quite good when you adapt and live with Americans or other people that you need to speak English to, because that it gives you a lot more to the experience. So I think that's good.
The worst for us in England is obviously we speak English anyway, but when you come home with a slight American twang or start saying American terms, and then your friends and family rip you to shreds for giving up your identity. So yeah, you guys are best of both worlds, that you sound brilliant bilingual.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the reflection part of the podcast. We already spoke about how you would compare Middle Tennessee to Sundsvall's DFF in terms of playing quality and in terms of the actual football. But if you don't mind, could you because a lot of the times I obviously speak to a lot of women's soccer players and men's soccer players as well, and for the ones who do not choose to go to college, which is a lot of them, because it's a niche thing to do. But many of them says, "Oh, hey, I'm already playing in the second highest league in Sweden, so I'm already where I need to be." Would you mind explaining differences in terms of possibilities, in terms of training time, in terms of facilities, gym knowledge, in terms of athletic training? How does that compare to Sundsvall's DFF? Because Sundsvall is a good team in Sweden, and it's looked at as an elite team in many ways. How do that compare to Middle Tennessee?
It's like honestly night and day for me. Like I'm not like Sundsvall was a really good environment for me as well, but coming to MT just made me realize like, oh, this is how it feels to actually like get support and help, because like the environment we have there with like the number of like athletic trainers, like I get treatment every day before every practice and after every practice for my back, and that's something that I couldn't do in Sweden in the same way.
And when you say treatment, I think you've already adapted to the college game, and so as me and David. So when we say, when I tell a student here in Sweden, "Oh, you can get treatment whenever you want," what do you mean with treatment? What do they do with your back before every practice?
So what I do is that I get stretched out every morning, and I get this, we call it stem, which it's basically like giving you small like electric shocks to make your muscles relax, and I do that with heat. So that's what I do before and after. Have a couple of rehab exercises, and like I do ice baths and stuff like that.
Yeah, and this is every day, correct?
Yeah, every day.
Yeah. And sorry, I interrupted you, but in terms of the strength training, for example, and now in the spring, it was a bit short of a spring for you, but how was the strength training compared to the Swedish one?
We have a really, really talented strength coach, and we get the opportunity to work with her like every single day. So we have soccer first, and then we have strength right after. And it's just, she can actually like build a specific program for you and what you need. And that's like those resources. We don't have that in Sweden in the same way if you're not in like one of the biggest clubs. I don't think they have that in the same way even there. So it's more of like getting actually help for you and not like just in general. So that's really been good for me, because like obviously as anyone else, I have a lot of areas where I need to improve, and being able to do that with her and other coaches supports has been really amazing.
Yeah, nice. And I know a lot of Swedes and a lot of, or I'd say any international student, and they have a lot of thoughts about the American food and such. Do they keep track of what you eat, or are you free to eat whatever you want?
They don't keep track of what we eat in that way. Of course, they try to help us to make healthy and like smart choices.
Yeah.
But it's not like, it was a time period during preseason where we had to like log what we eat, just because there's like so much training and it's like really tearing your body down, and you just want to make sure you ate enough.
Yeah.
But now like during season, it's just like basically your responsibility to make sure you have like the nutrition you need. And if you need help with that, we have nutritionists that like can come talk to you about like, okay, so you need this more and blah, blah, blah. So like we get a lot of help with that, but they don't control us in that way.
So Ida, kind of to sum up your whole experience, has it kind of lived up to expectations for you overall?
I mean, honestly, I did not know what to expect before I went there. Of course, I've heard from a bunch of friends like, oh, I loved it, or oh, I hated it, but you never know like how it's going to be for me. But like, I cannot complain. Like, I've gained amazing friends. I've grown as a person, as a player, and I basically have a family on the other side of the world, which is something that I'm always going to have that. So I can't say that I'm disappointed in any way or form, because like that's what means the most. Like, soccer is secondary for me at this point, because like having those people in my life, it's just going to be like amazing. So I'm really happy with my first year, and I couldn't be happier. So
that's great. Yeah. I think Robin and I could definitely agree and speak to that from our experiences. Is of course you're going to get a degree to take with you for your whole life, but the experience and the people that you meet is really what you remember and what stays with you. The soccer is brilliant, but that becomes a bit of a memory later down the line. Believe me, when you're my age. But the people that you stay in contact with are what made it all worth it. So it's great that you've seen that already in just 1 year or so. So.
Yeah, nice. And you know, for the ones listening, and this goes for the Swedes, for the Danes, and for anyone who's listening. You might think that, okay, Ida played at a good level in Sweden, so of course she comes to a good level in the US, but that's not a definite, because you know, for me, who worked with Ida for 9 to 10 months, and we'll still stay in touch, and I'm really thankful for Ida for joining this pod, for writing on our guest blog. And I know a lot of my potential players who might go to the US, they follow Ida and see what she does. But what needs to be told is that Ida was very, very engaged in this whole process. And the reason why she's at a very good place was because Middle Tennessee is a very good place. And she's on a very, very nice scholarship. I'm not going to go into details, but it's a very, very good scholarship. And she earned it. It's not because of Athleticademix, because she was on her toes. She responded to coaches quickly. She came back with questions to them. She did her digging with the school. So once again, we say it a lot in our pod and on our blogs on the website, but it's a lot up to you. And Ida was sold on the idea. She went all in. I don't think I ever had a doubt from her in 10 months, which is quite rare, but she's very independent and very mature at a very young age. And in many ways, she created this herself with our help, of course. But you can do a lot on your own, and Ida did all of those things. And she's, as you can hear, also a very good student, which also helps. I don't remember your GPA from high school, but I do remember it was good. it was a good GPA. So good player, good athlete, good student, and a good person, and you'll end up with good things. So for future ahead here, we want to see Ida be the number one goalkeeper at MTSU here for future years. Otherwise, we'll ban Aston from Athleticademix.
I'll make sure he hears this.
Yeah, I'm gonna send it to her. But yeah, we as David said, we're gonna sum up the podcast, but we wanna end it with a bit of a light-hearted last question. And me and David discussed yesterday what we could discuss. We've already discussed food and a few things like that. Have you ever had Chipotle, by the way, Ida?
Oh yes, it's the best.
Yeah, all right, good. Now you're more my favorites. That's good. What do you have on your Chipotle? You can do your order here.
I have.
You do chicken?
Yes, obviously chicken.
Yeah, good.
I do rice. I do not do beans because that's disgusting.
Yeah. Do you do white or brown rice?
I do brown rice.
Yeah, nice.
And I do obviously a little bit of pico de gallo. I do cheese, and I do all of it. I love it. It's the best.
That's good. That's good. As long as you said chicken, I knew you were to count on. That's great.
Obviously.
There's obviously many, as you said, you know friends, or you do now have friends from Australia, Germany, and so on. And being an international in the US, it's a lot of cultures clashing, or a lot of experiences and thoughts that collides. So it could end up with quite funny situations. So we want to end up here with 3 different stories that me, David, and Ida all have experiences from the US where it kind of went wrong in a bit. And I can start with after my first semester in college, I was going to head home to Sweden to celebrate Christmas and New Year's with my mom and my sister. And I met my American neighbor in my dorm. And he was like, "Oh, hey man, you heading home to Sweden?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm going home tomorrow." And he was like, "Oh, all right, nice. That must be a really long car ride." And I just paused for a second, and I was like, "I live in Sweden." And he said, "Yeah, I know it must be a really, really long car ride. How long is it?" And I said, "Are you aware of where Sweden is?" He was like, "Yeah, man, I know it's very, very far away, but how long is the car ride? I know you'll probably fly, but how long does it take to drive?" And I just, I had to explain to him that it was a big Atlantic Sea in the middle of US and Europe. So that was a bit of a clash. Do you have a story, David, on your experience?
Yeah, I had a couple of moments of that, I think, in my first year, where I think the novelty of people being in classes for the very first time with someone that's not from the US, there's a lot of questions you get asked, and some really good questions. Okay, outside of the box, that's quite a good question, but there's some that you think that they are unbelievable, really. But I had someone ask me in my freshman year if I was from Australia, which is very common for a British person to get asked that, and probably Australians get asked if they're British. But so that's not too bad. So I said, no, I'm actually from England. And she then replied, "Oh, okay. No, I thought I knew it was European. I recognized an accent." So there's a little off from Australia there. And then we talked a little more about the differences, and maybe a bit cruel back then that I was, but I managed to convince her that England and Europe itself was 6 months ahead of America in time difference because of the way the world turns. And this was in like August, September at the start of fall semester. So I told her that we'd recently had Christmas and we were kind of moving on towards Easter time now back in England. So it's weird for me to have flown to America and go back in time. And she bought it. She believed it, and I think she's a doctor now, actually. So that was interesting.
Not a time doctor, is she?
Yeah, Doctor Who. Yeah.
I'm gonna try that.
Yeah, yeah.
What about you, Ida? Have you had any kind of funny questions or comments about you being from Sweden or Europe, or anything that made you smile?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of questions. Like, people are generally just very curious, I think.
Yeah.
But obviously, there's a lot of like, oh, so you're from Switzerland? When I say I talk Swedish, because they don't know the difference.
Yeah.
And like the main one, I was telling a story about like how I always have to stop like in the middle of the road because there's like reindeers walking across, like up in north of Sweden. And they were like, oh, so like they're real? And I was like, what do you mean? It's like they asked me if reindeers were actually like a real thing. They thought they were like Santa's helpers, like a fiction. And I was like, no, they're very much real.
You want to know the funny part of this, Ida? Is that David started laughing when you said reindeers walking over the road because he thought that was the joke.
No.
I heard you laughing, David.
Oh, I've seen them. I saw them at Christmas flying over the sky. No, I've seen them before.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're cute. They're always in the way. So yeah, that's my story.
All right, nice. Well, we're gonna sum up this call. It was a bit longer episode today, but we got a lot of questions on the pod, and a lot of them we have included into this interview. And keep giving us suggestions on what to do and what questions to ask athletes. And Ida, thank you so much for joining. Now when we have you on the podcast, we're hoping for booming numbers now when we have our first guest. Thank you guys for joining in, and don't forget to listen to this episode.
Yeah, and don't forget to like and subscribe as well, and share it with your friends. Thanks again, Ida, and we'll speak to you guys all next week.